Hello, everybody. I want to do for you a walkthrough of the general psychology course, just to explain kind of how it works. I will do a separate recording to walk you through the syllabus, but we are going to talk about the course in general and kind of the usefulness of the calendar, which I feel like is a really important thing to know how to do or use, I suppose. Okay, so when you go into the course in the first week, you're gonna see this message here on the front page, but you're always gonna see the front page first. I'm doing this on a computer because it's easier, but it will look pretty similar on a mobile device. But in general, if you have access to a computer, I would encourage you to do your classwork on a computer. It is much easier if that is available to you. Okay. So, a couple of quick links. So, you're gonna see the most recent three announcements at the top of the homepage. There's only one published announcement right now, so you're only going to see that one. But very quickly, there will there will be many more. I do a lot of important communicating with you through announcements. That's why one of your initial assignments is about um, making sure that those announcements are turned on. So, this navigation down here is going to be really important for you. Mainly, you're going to be in probably modules and course calendar. So, first, I think I want to show you the course calendar. So it will take you to this page where it shows you both course calendars for both classes. It doesn't go directly to the link of the calendar for a myriad of back behind the curtain kind of reasons, but um, the you will end up on this page. So yeah, so take a look at the calendar kind of frequently. I think you want to make sure that you are really clear about what's coming up, because it'll be much easier for you to, oops, that's too much. It'll be a lot easier for you to plan if you are looking into the calendar kind of on a regular basis. So, we're in the first week here, obviously, when you should be able to look at the class, before the beginning, but you won't be able to work on it before the beginning. So, the orientation and chapter one modules are open as of Monday. Most modules open on Saturday. Some of them open sooner if there's a holiday, like here with chapter four. But in general, they open on Saturday, and that's at midnight. So they open basically late Friday night, early Saturday morning. So you have lots of time to work. There's a certain amount of overlap, right, between the module that just opened and the module that is ending, so that you have an opportunity to manage your time the way that you need to manage your time. So, in week one, things are a little different than they are in subsequent weeks. In week one, you're going to have a bunch of little quizzes to do. They're about plagiarism, they're about the syllabus, they're about a bunch of things. But usually you don't have like a zillion little quizzes to do. You just have one or two quizzes. And then an assignment for the week is usually due on Saturday. But again, in week one, things are a little bit different just because people are trickling in and coming and going and kind of getting used to what's going on. So for simplicity, I made everything due on Sunday. So that's kind of how the week one works, but that's not how weeks work in general. So how they do work in general. So let's look at February 1st. So the way that I did the calendar is not usually how calendars exactly work. I just wanted it to be contiguous. So how, we only have one week of January. So instead of giving you like a whole page of January. That didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I just did it here at the top. And when we get to the end of February, it goes into March instead of having empty boxes and stuff like that. So it does scroll kind of contiguously in that way. So if you look at what happens on Saturday, this upcoming Saturday. So um, the chapter 2 module opens, right? And so you have access to that work, you have access to that assignment, you have access to um, the quiz at that point when it opens. Um, so you will have a little bit of that time to work on it over the weekend if you want, but it is not due, right, until later in the week. So chapter 2 is a week with a discussion. So discussions are unless there's a special thing going on, right? Discussions are always due with their initial post on Wednesday night. So you have Wednesday until 11:59 p.m. to do your initial discussion post. The Canvas will remind you of this in your little dashboard that has your calendar stuff. But it's a really, really good idea to keep track of it somewhere else where you keep track of what you have to do other than Canvas. The Canvas calendar feature is not perfect. It does not always show you exactly what you need when you need to see it. So it's a really good idea to make your own calendar kind of on this in this kind of way that I've done it. You can actually download this yourself if you want and kind of modify it, add whatever for your other classes if you want, that sort of thing. Um, Wednesday. So Wednesday is when discussion posts are due. And then that discussion reply is due on Saturday. Whenever something is due on Saturday, it is due at 6 p.m. Okay. So the good news is assignments don't lock, but discussions do. And the reason for that is that th discussions are supposed to be active, interactive discussions. And if people are posting late after the due date, the richness of the discussion kind of diminishes, and we have people, trying to engage in conversations that have passed and kind of gone stale. So discussions lock; they are not reopened. But when you have just a standard assignment, so you just have something that you turn in on your own that is not a discussion. It is due at 6 p.m., but you have um, more time to complete it. So if you need to turn it in late, it is usually either no penalty or very minimal penalty. And things in the first half of the semester do not lock until the midterm date. So when I scroll down a little bit, we'll talk about that a little bit more. So that distinction is important, right? Discussion replies are due on Saturday at 6, and any assignment for any chapter is going to be due on Saturday at 6. The discussion will lock, the assignment will not at that time. So if you have to choose between something that locks and something that doesn't lock, always work on the thing that locks first. Because it's some points are better than no points, I like to say. So Sundays are when your reading quizzes are due. Sometimes you'll have a quiz that is not just on the reading, but most of them are on only the reading. So I'll tell you if it includes other things. But this is our way of making sure that you are keeping up with the reading. So the office hours are here in red. They are mostly 2 p.m. On Friday for this semester, but this calendar is obviously going to be different for different semesters, and most importantly, things change. So when I make adjustments to office hours, actually I need to add something about that to the top, and I'll make that change a little bit later. But when I make adjustments to office hours, they're going to be reflected in CityZoom. They're not going to be, so let me just show you. So this is CityZoom right here, right? And if you click on it, it will show you the office hours meetings that are coming up, and it will be accurate. It will tell you when they're going to be. So, the first one is 9 o'clock. The second one is the normal time. This one changed both to a different day and a different time to accommodate holiday stuff. So like, that you're going to see that change in CityZoom. You're not really going to see that change here. I don't really modify the calendar after I've created it unless I made some sort of mistake with the with the assignment dates. So anyway, when you scroll through this, you're gonna see everything that is due for the whole semester. And it's a really good idea to get all this stuff into your own tracking. Um, and you can do that any number of ways. This is just how I like to visualize things, and you do not have to have the same learning style that I have, So download it, do whatever you need to do to make it useful for yourself. Um, but at the very least, bookmark this page so that you can look at it more easily. Because when you look at the calendar on Canvas, um, it's, kind of, you can look at it different ways. You can look at it as like a list of items. You can look at it as a monthly calendar. You can look at it as a weekly calendar, but it has a tendency to get a little cluttered, right? So I'm looking at all three of my classes right now, and that's a lot, right? So, it's a tricky when you try to use the Canvas calendar. It's even trickier when you try to use it in this view, because when I go to February, it gets really messy really fast, right? So week is a little bit better, but honestly, not by much. So, I don't really like to lean too hard into the Canvas calendar feature. Okay, so that's the calendar. Um, so let's go back to our class. So again, you start here. Um, when you go to modules, I'll talk about like, first week orientation kind of stuff in a different video, but because that's the same for all classes. But when you look, you're not going to see it quite the way I see it, right? Like when I do view as student, it looks a little bit different. But when a module is still locked, you'll be able to see the items, but you won't if you click on them, like, oh, you know what, I can't even open it, right? So like you can see what the items are and you can see when they're due, but you can't go in, right? So don't worry about that. Just focus on whatever is unlocked for you at the time. And they expand and all of that stuff. And if you have questions, certainly reach out to me or your classmates. There's some options for you for communicating with your classmates. But yeah, that's the structure of the course. I understand that sometimes it takes a little getting used to understand that, some things lock and some things don't, and, when things are due, but I tried to make it as predictable as possible about what type of thing does what, you know, and you'll get a hang of it. So when you look at the class syllabus, like, it kind of discusses some of this stuff, and you are responsible to understand everything that is here in the syllabus. So again, that's a different video, but you're going to want to spend some time making sure that you've gone through this stuff carefully, especially the parts about academic honesty, which you can find here at the bottom under expectations of students and instructors. This is kind of a lengthy academic honesty policy, but um, I find that it is pretty important to be this detailed about it. Again, that's a different video that I will do in just a second, but you do need to be familiar with the syllabus. Okay, so I hope that is a decent tour of your class. And if you have any questions at all, absolutely, ask me. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.